Yo, what's going on, everybody? You guys know the face. You guys know the name. Now, I want to say this before we get started because we have a lot to get through. Bryan Broaddus not only is somebody who I've looked up to, but he's somebody that I've studied. I know his accolades from the Super Bowls he's won. But it's actually really cool to see him interact with fans on Twitter. He's not too big headed. He's reachable, and that's how we made this happen. But I just want to give him his flowers because he's working with Voch. He did something really cool with Law. I mean with Boss Law and those guys. He does stuff with Jeff all the time, and Jeff is one of my pals. And he's intermingling, and the fact that he was so gracious to come on my channel, I can honestly say thank you, Bryan. I told you this pre-show. You are one of the reasons why I got into the draft. Why the draft became cool. Like some people may have Daniel Jeremiah, or some people may have Mike Lombardi, or some people may have some of these other scouts and different Walter football, whatever. Yeah. When I heard you talking ball, and it wasn't like it wasn't fluff. It was like this guy knows his stuff. And years later, we're doing a live stream together. So I just want to give you your flowers and say thank you, Bryan, for coming on. And, man, what a treat these people are in for today.
Well, thanks, Foots. I really appreciate you, the kind words. A ton of respect for the YouTube community. I don't think that's always been the case. And, whether the .comers or the whoever's, the YouTubers, there's a unique opportunity for us all to work together.
Yeah.
And I've learned that with working with Voch. I've learned that working with Jeff, Kevin Turner, getting the opportunity tonight with yourself. You have a great platform.
Yeah.
You're very credible in your information. There's good discussions. There's back and forth. I think you guys do a hell of a job. And for me to have the opportunity, I should be thanking you for the opportunity tonight, because it gets really busy, but you know what? We all need to make time for each other here, because I think that we have, your thoughts might be different than my thoughts. My thoughts might be different than Voch's thoughts. There's a lot of opportunities here, and again, I just appreciate your kind words. And I look forward to kind of chopping it up with you tonight. So it should be some fun.
And you know what? We're gonna hit it off with a fastball, Bryan. So, obviously the Green Bay loss.
Yeah,
we know what happened. The team just wasn't prepared. I don't care if it was Dak throwing interceptions. The defense didn't look like it was gonna get stopped, Bryan. We don't need to belabor any of this. I mean, we'll probably touch on some of that when we get down the road in this conversation. But Bryan Broaddus, you are a scout at heart. You are a draft guy. And I want your unfiltered thoughts on Tyler Guyton, because I fought a lot of people, right, Bryan, and just said, can we give the guy a chance?
Yeah.
Can we just see, is there something that we like about him, Bryan, or is he just a complete wash? So Bryan Broaddus, you have the floor. What were you thinking when he was drafted? What are you thinking now that you've seen him now in person? Tell me what are Bryan Broaddus's true unfiltered thoughts on Tyler Guyton.
Yeah, I tell you what, when I did my stack, when we do our stack for the draft, you put them from 1 to whatever your number is, your final number. Mine ended up, I think, being 207, I think is what I got to, or 210, something like that. I can remember. But he was the 17th best player on my board. So I had 16 guys ahead of him. Where he was picked was a little bit later than even where I projected him. I think you're dealing with a really good foot athlete. You're dealing with length. You're dealing with a guy that when you play him in space, that he is good in space as far as when he finds his guy, there's that connected. And when he gets connected, he stays on his guy because he has the athletic ability to be able to run with guys.
Yes.
And he can be a hard guy to kind of throw off. There are things about him that his athletic ability allows him when he sets in his pass set. His length allows him to keep guys off him. He can keep guys wide. There's going to be some work that he needs with some strength training.
Yeah.
The thing that is a problem sometimes for really tall, long tackles is what happens is they can't develop strength because when you do, say, bench pressing or heavy lifting, your arms are so long that you can't driving the bar. You can't, there's that muscle, the lack of that, your arms or muscles are so long that they don't get as strong as maybe you need to be. It's hard for a really long arm guy to put on a lot of strength because lifting weights is difficult for how far they have to travel the bar or drive the bar. So, it's always going to be, well, he's going to need to put on a little strength. Well, every offensive lineman are going to need to put on strength. I remember guys like David Bakhtiari when we came out of Colorado. He doesn't play strong enough. But David Bakhtiari turned out to be a damn good player.
Green Bay.
Playing strong enough. Yeah, Green Bay. Colton Miller, drafted UCLA, Raiders, end up playing at a very high level, not always the strongest guy. There's those examples. Nate Soldor was another Colorado guy, went to New England, played at a very high level, then took a big contract with the Giants, and that was kind of it for him. But there's guys in this league that need more power, need more strength, offensive linemen, but if they're really good foot athletes, then they can make up for some of the power. They stay in front. They keep the guy off the quarterback. They keep the pocket wide. They're able to adjust back inside. This is going to be a learning curve for him. But he's played at a very high level. It's not like he went to, and no offense to any of the smaller schools, but he played against a very high level of competition in the Big 12 at Oklahoma. And you could see on the tape that he is a guy that at times he is really, really good, and at other times, but that's most offensive linemen. The thing, Foots, I worry about the most here.
Yes.
I think he is going to be your starter at left tackle. I'm not telling anybody something they probably already don't know. But the fact with Adoga, and it's just kind of a muddy situation there, that these coaches now, they will talk about Brock Hoffman at center, because you look at BB, we'll get into BB, we'll talk about him. But then you've got these coaches that step in and their jobs are on the line. And now they're thinking about, can we start 2 rookie offensive linemen? Yeah. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Trust me, I'm at practice every single day at training camp. When we get there, the 24th, I don't leave till they put up the last bit of equipment and then come on back home. So my eyes are going to be trained on Guyton and how fast can he pick things up? There's going to be a little bit of a learning curve there, but I think the kid has played enough high-level football that he should be ready to go. Now, here we go. If something were to happen, do they play Adoga? Is Adoga better? I don't think so. Me personally, I'd kick Tyler Smith, the left tackle, and then plug T.J. Basson at guard or plug in BB or somebody like that. You know, if they're going to play Hoffman at center. I think if it's
too much for Guyton.
If it's too much. I don't know if I particularly want to go into the season and if they're struggling one-on-ones, there's going to be some struggles. There's going to be some times where he gets beat. There's going to be, and we're going to be right there talking about it. And, but there'll be some times he also wins.
Yes.
But how he plays, there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. But, man, as you know, the scouting staff, when it's plug and play, first-round offensive lineman, they've done a pretty solid job.
I'll say this. You said something that I caught on one of your shows, Brian, about everybody's freaking about, Myles Garrett, Tyler Guyton, week 1. But you said something that stuck out to me, and I wrote this down. You said, Myles has to worry about Tyler's length. And I think that if he can, right, I think he's a great reach blocker. I think that he knows how to wall guys off. Now, he getting movement, he struggles there. Whereas, when you watch Tyler Smith coming out of Tulsa, Tyler you saw a guy who played with power. It was a little grabby, but you saw a guy who played with power. And so I'm thinking, if nothing else, wouldn't you say, Brian, it's harder to get an athlete's feet right versus, hey, getting away, David Bakhtiari, good footwork. Like you're not going to beat him around the edge, and enough rushers don't, have that speed to power deal. So, and they can't get in his body. If there's like a silver lining, do you see some of that, Bryan, in his game?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about something. I think the one thing that if you're an athlete, and you mentioned it about Tyler Smith. If you watch Tyler Smith at Tulsa, his hand placement was really poor.
It was awful.
That's what led to a lot of the penalties that he got in college football. He gets some pro coaching. Nothing against Tulsa. He gets some pro coaching. Duke helps him a little bit with the hands, gets him in place. Feet are good. Strength is good. There's a lot of positive things about Tyler Smith. I see the same thing with Guyton. There's going to be some times where he's going to be in bad position, maybe with his hands. But feet can make up for some of the sins of poor hands. And I could see him, his size, his length. You try and run through him, that's a problem. You try and get to the corner, that's a problem. Maybe you take him down inside. Hell, I remember Tyron Smith having problems with guys starting on the outside, taking him down inside and not getting over quick enough. I think the thing with Guyton is he has that ability to plant his left foot and then redirect back inside. Yeah. So there's going to be some practices where I guarantee you and I are going to be talking on one of these podcasts again, and it's going to be well, this practice, boy, it was good, and this game was good, but he had a rough day yesterday because of this. But I think the guy, I think he's got a really good demeanor. I think he's got a really good attitude. I think having a Pro Bowl guard inside of him is going to help a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so Bryan, moving right on. I wanted to hit on Guyton because I think the fan base, they were kind of so torn that I was maybe one of the only people that was just like, well, let's just wait and see. I mean, and I get it because in the way that they were able to get the 2-for-1 with BB, and we'll talk about BB. I feel like that was better than maybe even getting the Duke kid or even one of the other tackles, because I don't think the gap was that big, and we'll obviously have to wait and see. Yeah. So Bryan, now we go through the draft. We get Marist Liufau in the 3rd round. We get Cooper Beebe in the 3rd round, and then you get Marshawn Neal in the 2nd round, Kalen Carson, and then the 2 guys. You get the receiver late. You get Nathan Thomas late. So you had a nice draft. I want to ask you about 2 picks. 2 picks. Any 2 guys, no setup here, that you, Bryan Broaddus, would bet on this year to say, you know what? Because the truth is this. Last year's class, and we'll talk about it, was not good. No. It was not good. I literally did some film on Hunter Luepke, and I put that on the channel. He probably was one of your best players. I mean, Schoonmaker wasn't much. Obviously, Demo gets hurt. Mozzie was bad. It is what it is, and I had nothing but hope for Mozzie, but he wasn't good enough. And that it was kind of a wash. I mean, your kicker and Hunter. I like what Hunter did. Obviously, had a fumble, but he was a good blocker. So, but 2 players this year, Bryan, that you say, I'm gonna put a flag in the stand on these guys. I think they can play.
I'm gonna die on the hill of, and I didn't initially think this. About Liufau.
Okay.
I was interested in Lloyd, the running back from USC. That's who I was really interested in.
And he's actually, this crazy thing about him, he went to DeMatha and up in Maryland. He's from Delaware. I followed Marshawn Lloyd for a long time. Really good player.
Really good player. And you watch him play, and there's that explosiveness. There's that quickness. There's that attacking the hole. There's that catching the ball, the willingness to blitz pickup and stuff. I think this kid's going to be a star. I do think Lloyd's going to be a star. But when I was at the time, I was like, Liufau, I was thinking more in the 5th round. And I wasn't thinking of where he was picked. So to me, that was a little bit of a reach.
Okay.
But you talk to people in the organization. We had a chance to interview the scouts afterwards. We got a chance to talk to the linebacker coach, and to a man, nothing but praise. And then I had a chance to visit with Zimmer. Mike Zimmer and I go way, way back.
Yes.
And so Mike and I are good friends, and I asked him about Leofau. He's like, Bryan, this kid gets it. He gets it quickly. And so here we go from being last year where Dan Quinn, and out of necessity, they lose Overshown. They lose our guy from
the Wolf out of Boise State.
Yeah, we lose him. Van Der Esch.
Yeah.
We lose Leighton Van Der Esch. And then so all of a sudden it's now you're playing dime the whole game. You're playing with Bell, Wilson, Curse, anybody down in the box to try and make up for. And then poor, Clark really doesn't. He lost. He lost his guy Van Der Esch. Now he really is not sure where he needs to be, fits and all that.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about that now. The thing with Leofau is that in watching, and I got to see him for 3 practices.
I was just gonna get to Bryan. What do you like about him in person? Because I've heard your sentiments, and now I'm just like the fact that you're now triple down on Leofau.
Yeah, I didn't think that way, and maybe my where I had him will be right, but I have a feeling just talking to people that I trust about the player, and I mentioned Mike Zimmer. I think that to me, the instincts that he showed in these OTA practices, and there was times where he was working with the ones. So they had him up on what I call the varsity field. And then, the guys, the 2s and 3s, a lot of them were down on the other field getting work. And I was impressed by a couple of things. When you watch him play, he moves. It's like he sees the formation and he's moving. He's moving the right way. And you could see him in coverage. You could see, Kendricks, those guys, they were like the Rockettes. If you've ever seen in Radio City Music Hall, the Rockettes dance, they're all together. There is one. They dance as one. And this guy, for a rookie, and we'll see when we get on the pads and all that, but the reads, the way he plays downhill, the way that in coverage he's asked to play flat to curl, the awareness to tip a ball, be in the throwing lane, carry a guy. Those are all things that you is he the best athlete? Probably not.
Yeah.
Is he one of the most instinctual players you have on the defense? Yeah, he really is, because he sees it and he goes, and so does Kendricks. And then you talk about now you throw in there with Overshown, and I'm watching Overshown work, and Overshown looks like he's put on good weight. I think he's going to play as the will linebacker here.
Yeah.
So that means this son of a gun is going to be running. And so I think he'll be ready for that. I was talking to some people in the front office about him. They're super excited about his progress and where he's going. But Leofau is the guy that because I'm always going to say Lloyd, Leofau.
Leofau, yeah.
Yeah, which one? Which one? And if Leofau turns into a great player, then God bless him for making the right move there. But they are super, super excited about him as a player.
Well, the fact that you were able to get a candid answer from Zimmer, I think is really cool, Bryan, because
Mike is super impressed with the kid. He goes, I've been around kids that you throw stuff at and they kind of look at you like deer in the headlights look. This kid doesn't have that look. He knows what's going on. Now, maybe that's how he has to play.
Yeah.
Because maybe he's
the lack of athleticism, yeah.
Yeah, whereas Clark, Overshown, Kendricks, those guys are like really, really good athletes.
Yeah.
And with Leofau, it's more read, react, finish.
Than
it is like jump over guys and and make plays that way.
You know what's so interesting about it, Bryan? I remember watching the Senior Bowl, and I remember looking at him and Peyton Wilson next to each other, and I said,
love Peyton Wilson,
I said, man, Leofau's bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
Let me ask you that real quick, and then we'll get to your next player who might could be a rookie. That who is he? How does he stand a true 6'3", 6'4", Brian?
He's
more
6'2", but
okay.
But yeah, he's more 6'2", and he's more 234 pounds.
Okay,
that's kind of where. But man, he's a well put together guy.
He carries it well.
He carries it well. Like I say, you're just not going to get. It's not this explosive through the tackle, but not explosive like blowing guys up. I mean, he's going to play on the move, hit, move, hit, move, hit, move. That's how he's going to play. He's got to stay a little ahead. So instinctually, he has to play ahead. And if you play ahead, then that keeps guys off him. If he guesses wrong, takes a bad angle, he's going to get caught. He's going to get trapped. But that's the opposite of really what you have, when you look at Clark. Clark is a body beautiful guy and athlete and all those things. But Clark, if he reacted like Luafau, Kendricks, those guys,
he'd be Ray Lewis.
he wouldn't come off the field. They wouldn't have had to draft Luafau. He would have been that guy. But he doesn't have those instincts like that.
At an instinct position.
At an instinct position, right. So it's a good-looking group. It went from being probably a position that you were really worried about going into the draft to they cleaned that thing up pretty nicely.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bryan Broaddus is on the channel, and he's giving us great insight. And that actually – so many Cowboys fans were worried about the linebacker room.
Yeah.
And just to hear you talk through it, Brian, I feel that much better, and I can't wait to see it because I think a lot of people actually forget Eric Kendricks played good football last year.
Yeah.
And so with him, with Luafau, with Demo back, they'll sort it out. They'll battle it out. It'll be a fun battle to watch throughout camp.
Yeah.
Brian, is there another name rookie-wise that you would put a stake in the sand before we move on to these second-year guys?
I really love Kalen Carson from
I knew it.
Wake
I knew
Forest.
you liked it. Yeah.
Okay, I really, really love him, but I'm going to say something, and I'm going to focus on another guy because I think during the draft process, people realize how much I love Carson.
Okay.
I think he could play either side. I think he could play in the slot. I think he's a really smart kid. I think he reads routes well. I think he's able to play at the line of scrimmage, the jam, the turn, the run, carry inside, knock balls away. I think he'll have to work a little bit with the ball skills, the interception, stuff like that, work on the hands. But he could be a top level player for you. I think there's a lot of people that are going to look back at him. 6 foot, 193 pounds. I mean, and he's a physical player. He tackles, he covers well and all that. Okay. With all that being said, it's easy to talk about Cooper Beebe. Not going to go there because I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about Marshawn Nealon as another guy because I think Marshawn Nealon can definitely help you in the run game on the right side. I don't think he's a particularly bendy guy.
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking like, oh, this is an 8 to 10 sack guy, I would be surprised. I think he's going to have to learn how to play that way. But playing the run, being physical at the point of attack, not getting blocked, all those things. The guy I'm going to talk about that I'm going to keep a really, really keen eye on. We say this a lot when we do these shows in July, getting ready for training camp. Justin Rogers, the defensive tackle from Auburn, who was drafted in the 7th round.
Do tell.
I got to figure out with him because you don't have a lot of numbers there.
You don't?
You don't have the safety net, of guys that were here in the past. Hankins, guys like that were, if something were happening, you put Hankins in there and you'll be fine. But I'm interested in Rodgers because I think he's got the demeanor. I think he's got the build. I think he's got the ability. 6'2", 322 pounds, lateral player, physical player at the point of attack. Mozzie Smith, to me, didn't look particularly ready. And this was several weeks ago. This was the last This is June, last OTA practices that we got to watch. He was on the cords working with Britt Brown. He's trying all. I talked to Zim about him. I said, Zim, what's your expectations? He goes, I just want him to come in and work hard. That's all I want him to do. Just please come in and work hard. Yeah. And we'll take care of everything. We'll coach him. We'll do all we can. I worry about him if this turns into a training camp, the start of training camp, he misses the first week. Yeah. And maybe misses the second week. I just don't think that Mazi Smith can't afford to miss a lot of practice. Yeah. But now that turns into Justin Rogers because they're going to need somebody. Denzel Daxton, is another rookie that, people have kind of talked about. I just don't think. I mean, I'm keeping my eyes out for any one techniques that are on the on the board, and I'm doing that because again I don't have one. Again, I was looking at Carl Davis. No, yeah, not enough. I've seen Carl Davis play, and Carl Davis he's just a fill-in guy. He gets moved. He gets moved so easily. He gets turned for a big guy. Yeah. So I mentioned all the other guys, Carson and BB and those guys, and Marshall
Rogers.
But
write that down.
Rogers is my guy. Rogers is the one I need to watch for sure.
That's good. I'm right BB behind that, and I wrote it. So, and that'll transition us right into our second-year players, Brian. And I'll be honest, there wasn't a person who stood on Twitter, stood taller for Mazi Smith. Yeah. But the truth is, my level of concern is now at a 7. I mean. And it should okay. Because I mean, the truth is this, bro. I don't have a problem being wrong. I don't have a problem, eating pie or eating crow, whatever. Yeah. And the truth is this: he looks small, and I don't know if he can't hold weight. I don't know. There's reports. Dan asked him to lose weight. I don't know. You would know better than me, Brian. The truth is this: the shoulder now. Yeah. You hear things about the mental. Yeah. You hear, the guy could not recognize a double team. He couldn't anchor. And this was a guy who played with power in Michigan, comes to the league. And now the grace is this, and this is the tricky thing, Brian. Yeah. How hard is it to play one tech transitioning into the NFL? Like, you tell me, you have literally the experience of dealing with it, but the problem is Dallas just doesn't have time. And so it's tricky. Yeah. This is a guy that Will McClay stood up on the table. We all remember Will in the pre-draft. Yeah, Bergeron from Illinois was a guy that they were looking at. The coaches really liked Laporta. We were getting buzz, and they would have been right. They would have been damn right. Mike McCarthy would have been damn right about. Yeah, listen. People say what they want about Mike. He would have hit on that one. Boy, they were saying Sam Laporta. They're thinking about draft. I remember Todd Archer texting me right before we went on the clock, or before before the commissioner started the draft, and Archer goes, "Man, I'm hearing they like this Sam Laporta guy," and I went, "Holy S!" I'm like, "Okay, here we go. If that's the case." So but Will made a very passionate speech. He did about Mazi Smith and what he can do, and so Will. I tried to. I remember one time where I was trying to be nice to Will about something, and I said something about Taco Charlton. I said, Rod Marinelli, really this, that, the other, and Will sent me a text. He heard what I said, and he said, "That's not on Marinelli. It's not on Marinelli." I respect that, and I go, "Okay, so you're gonna wear this one?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll wear it." And I'm like, cool. All right. So, I went from saying, and I knew people, I think Will took the arrow from Marinelli on that one. Yeah. Because I heard enough people in the organization that were talking about Rod and where he was with Taco. But that's water under the bridge. But Will McClay he's lauded as one of the best drafters in the league. We talk about the Cowboys' ability to draft, Will McClay. You and I are about to get into a bunch of second-year guys here coming up that need to step up. There's some third-year guys that need to step up.
You know?
Yeah.
And it, you know, and I'm talking about Golston, Nashawn Wright. You know,
well, Nashawn Wright even make the team.
That's what I'm saying. Nashawn Wright made some plays the other day in the practice that we got to watch. Had a couple of plays.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this. There's some guys, you mentioned this last draft, Junior Vahoko, another guy. You know, got it. They're going to have some guys. Sam Williams, Tolbert.
Yeah.
How many? You know, Will McClay is known as a very good drafter, and he has. They have a team. You talk to general managers around the league like I do. Dallas got a damn good roster.
Yeah,
Dallas got a good roster, and that's what they always say. Dallas got a good roster.
Yeah,
but they've also now with this Mozzie Smith stuff. You know, that's something that's kind of, and Will's wearing it right now. He needs Mozzie Smith to rehab. And the thing about last year, you're right. You hit the mental part of it.
Yeah.
He dealt with a lot. There were times after games where they would win a game, and Mozzie Smith was like breaking down in the locker room because he didn't feel like he played very well, you know, and they couldn't, people couldn't talk to him because he was not in a good spot. And so, you know, we're all talking about, we're doing these shows and it's like, no, Mozzie Smith is tick late off the ball.
Yeah.
We kept saying tick late. And then you're like going, and he loses all this weight.
Yeah.
And I remember asking Will McClay during the season, I said, I'm watching your tape. Why does Mozzie Smith not look like a 329-pound guy anymore? He goes, because he's not. He's 292 pounds. And I went, huh? And he goes, yeah. And so whether that was Mozzie, I don't know if anybody on the coaching staff I think Mozzie got in his mind that he had to drop some weight to get quicker. You watch Chris Jenkins play for Michigan this year.
Yeah.
The 3 technique. He plays at the same speed as Mozzie Smith. It's a Michigan thing.
Yeah.
They play read and react. They play read, react, react. So they're naturally let off the ball. Well, you know, Aiden Hutchinson, who plays for the Detroit Lions, is Gary, another guy. I mean, these guys.
Michigan guy, yeah.
Edge, go.
Rashawn Gary,
go.
yeah.
Go. But their inside guys play read and react. And Mozzie, what happened was when things start going bad for Mozzie, he reverted back to his Michigan days. He reverted back to read, react, not go. You know, he was read, react. And so he's got to, you know, this is a whole new coaching staff too, again, this new scheme, but he can't afford to miss practices. He just can't.
Yeah.
And there's a lot riding on Mozzie Smith right now. A lot.
I'll tell you this, Brian, from segueing from Justin Rogers, who you're right. When I watched the film, he doesn't get moved easily. To Mozzie, who just not only did he get double teamed, he didn't recognize double teams. That's what bothered me on film. Like he just couldn't feel when he was getting reached or doubled.
Yeah, you're right. You stop the film, and everybody's hands off the ground, moving off the field.
He's still in the dirt.
His hand is still on the ground. And now you got offensive linemen that are moving to double team or scoop or reach. And now you got him at a 1, say Osa at a 3, and Osa is moving, going, and Mozzie's hand is still on the ground.
Still in the dirt. Yeah. Still in the dirt, Brian.
And that's a big problem because that immediately those offensive linemen, he ain't playing like Purdue. He ain't playing Indiana. He's playing the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins, Green Bay Packers. You know, that's who you're playing. And those guys, if you give them a half a tick off the ball early, you're going to get reached or scooped every single time.
And it's, you know, Buffalo was a game. I mean, those double teams, I just couldn't.
God.
It was awful. And, you know, some of that too, Brian, I'll say this, and we'll save this for the Zimmer section. I want to talk about how Dan Quinn even fit the run. We talked about it pre-show. So much dime, so much nickel, so many defending big personnel, 13, 12, these big run at you personnels with light boxes.
Yeah.
It was really, and I do know that Zimmer is not going to do that. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Brian. I got 3 names written down. We already touched on Mozzie, and I mean, great insight, Brian, because the fans want to and deserve to know, and I appreciate this. Who plays better out of these 3 names? Because I told you I do like Hunter Luepke. I think that Mike actually trusts him in the fullback role, and I think that he showed some things in it. Honestly, to be honest, the lights weren't too bright for the guy.
No,
like Hunter Luepke.
Yeah, if Hunter Luepke doesn't fumble in the Miami game, you would think I would say he had a very productive. For somebody, when you watch North Dakota State film, he was not a natural fullback. And I think he got better.
As the season.
There were times he went in there what we call half man, and he's hitting half the guy. He's not squaring a guy up, so he's hitting half. He's hitting shoulder into a guy, and then the guy's getting off the block. So he's hitting half man. Now he's more square in some of his blocks, late season blocks. He was going there and digging guys out. Yeah, but if he doesn't fumble that ball, I think he's had a really positive first year in the NFL. Yeah, first year in the NFL. I think he's fine.
So you talk about Hunter. Let me ask you about these 2. DeMarvin Overshown, because I think with Fehoko, it's just going to be hard to get playing time when Nealon, I feel like, is kind of like going to be in his way, especially as like that set the edge type run defender. But if you think different, it's going to be tricky.
No, I think you're fine.
So Demo Schoonmaker, tell me more. Do you see anything? I believe if DeMarvin Overshown doesn't get hurt, he was the best rookie out of that class. Just the speed,
him and
the
TJ
physicalness.
Bass.
Yeah, him and Bass.
Yeah.
So do you think that a healthy DeMarvin Overshown will be okay? And do you have any faith in Schoonmaker, Brian?
I first off, let me address Schoonmaker, because I was the this is where in the scouting world you're supposed to trust your eyes.
Yeah.
And I watched Michigan run the football behind Luke Schoonmaker and run it really well with Blake Corum.
Yes.
And like physically beat people up. And so I was like, okay, Luke Schoonmaker. All right, I like it. This was a that was a deep draft with tight ends. And, there was probably 4 or 5 guys other that I would rather had than Schoonmaker. When Dallas picked him in the 2nd round, was a surprise? Yeah. But you know what? I was also remember watching a guy, like I said, they're playing in Ohio State, playing Penn State, playing in bowl games. He's blocking at the point of attack. He did not even look like the same player. And I don't know if it was the setback because of injury, things he was dealing with the foot. He missed time. There's a lot of things. He's still missing time. This is why when you look at that tight end room, like, John Stevens is coming back. And, Ferguson could be one of the top 3 tight ends in the league when this is all said and done. But you're in a situation right now where Luke Schoonmaker does not need to be standing over there next to you and I watching practice.
Yeah.
He needs to be out on the field and being a participant in this and trying to be and do the things that Ferguson can't do. Whether Ferguson will give you effort as a blocker and all that. Luke Schoonmaker is capable. But what happened is Luke Schoonmaker had some drops.
Yeah.
He missed some blocks. It wasn't the same guy. And I guarantee you, if we all sat down and watched his Michigan tape and watched his Dallas Cowboys tape, you said that's not the same guy. That's not the same guy. So hopefully he pulls that together, because they don't have time for him to mess around and not be healthy and not play well and all that. Yeah, he's a 2nd round pick, but let's be real honest here. That tight end room has got some guys that if they play better, they'll be on this team. You could probably only keep 3 of them.
Yeah.
And if he's not one of the 3, then he'll probably end up on the practice squad.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really important year for him, as is a couple Michigan guys, him and Mozzie Smith for sure.
Yeah. And you thought
Overshown.
DeMarc,
right?
Overshown. Yeah.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I mean, honestly, you hit it on the head. So I try to stay extremely positive. That's like who I am. Bryan, I was not happy with that pick. Now I get we'll yin and yang this thing, Bryan. So the deal is this: I get the blocking aspect, but it's like, hey, if you want to do that, let's draft Tucker Kraft. Let's draft one of these guys later in the class. Like, what are we doing? Why are we drafting him? And then it's like the whole upside of being able to catch the ball. I mean, outside of the seam ball against the Panthers, like he was no threat in the game. And that's the thing is like, and then now lo and behold, Jake Ferguson looks like a top 10 tight end. So it's like, why did you draft him again? So it's just, that was one that I have literally nothing.
Might have got cute, but they might have been in a situation too where we were seeing these things with the blocking, and we're seeing Blake Corum and others at Michigan run the ball and be really, really physical doing it. Yeah. And they weren't. He wasn't a physical enough player. Now, I'll circle back with the Overshown thing.
Yes.
I think that Overshown. I remember doing the games on the radio in the preseason with Brad Sham, and it was like he was in for 6 plays and had 3 tackles, and then he blows out his knee, and I'm going, oh, damn it!
I know.
And I think there was a plan. I think Dan Quinn and that crew had a plan for him, and I think Mike Zimmer has a plan for what they want to do with Overshown. I think you free him up and you let him run. You let him get to the ball. You play him on what we call the open side away from the tight end, and you let him run. And he can handle that. Yeah. I think he's going to be the guy that he's got some ability to rush the passer, which you can kind of do some stuff with him on that too. But the coverage aspect, I think, will be fine. Okay. I mean, he was doing some stuff. They had him they were working him on the cords, but then they took him off the cords, and then they started doing defensive techniques where it was drop, turn, plant, run. Drop, turn this way, plant, run. Go forward, burst this way. And everything about it looked really positive. Nice. And again, I was talking to some people that watch him every day that's like he's moving better, and he will be ready for training camp. And what they'll do is we'll see how if Britt Brown lets him go full go from day one, or is there going to be an acclimation period where all of a sudden he is going to have 2 or 3 practices and then they're going to put him in and go from there. But yeah, he looks like he looks better physically.
Yeah, oh my God.
Than he even looked like last year. And last year he looked good, but now it looks like he's put on a really good weight. He looks strong.
Clean weight.
Lower body's big. You know, I mean, he's ready. The work that he's put in to get to this point, I think it's going to pay dividends for this football team.
What I've gathered, Bryan, from just this conversation, and by the way, if you're just getting on, if you're catching it at a different time, if you're just skipped or fell asleep or anything, I've gathered so much from Bryan, and one of the biggest things that I've gathered is the linebacker room inadvertently may have been, I was just about to say, it may have been rebuilt right underneath your nose. If like Bryan's saying, if we hit on Louisville, because we saw with our eyes that Demo was playing at a different speed than all these linebackers.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Clark to death, but right. I mean, and I hate to say this, but I'll say it again and again and again. I did not see Damone Clark hit anybody last year. You saw him make a bunch of tackles. You didn't see him hit anybody. It's a difference when Demo came downhill on Tank, on the running back, Jacksonville. It was you felt it was a thud. It was a crunch. And so that's the type of physicalness that the Cowboys need. And so, Bryan, I'm learning a lot, man. I think this is kind of what this show was designed for. So I'm really cool and I'm really happy about it. Now, Bryan, this is going to be one that I really want you always give your honest opinion, but I really want your honest opinion, because I'll be honest. When it comes to Trey Lance, I've been really high. Then I've watched some of the things you said. I've watched other people. I've listened. I've done the deepest dive on the guy. And I've said, okay. And as we switch gears to Trey Lance, I'm like, can Trey Lance play? Well, he's literally not played a lot of football. Then he's gotten hurt at the wrong times. Right. Then the Cowboys bring him in. And so I did a whole content piece on it. But the truth is, Bryan is watching Trey Lance every day. And I want to know from you, Bryan, and this is my theory, but we may not agree on this, and it's good. This is what this is about. This is what this podcast is about.
Sure.
Bryan, coming behind Dak doing drill work, will Trey look like a trash can versus he's learning the scheme and it's going to take time? Or is it, I know this is a loaded question, or is it, Bryan, he just can't play, the processing isn't good, he's late, he's slow, I mean, he's processing slow, the release is slow. Give me your honest opinion on who you think Trey Lance will be throughout the preseason, because I'll be honest with you, I don't want to see Cooper Rush if Dak is hurt, but if we do, if Dak is hurt, you're done. If Trey Lance is a pumpkin. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. I think the thing with Trey Lance is this is where I fall.
Okay. I
have friends that are personnel guys around the league. I know some people at San Francisco.
Okay.
I called people. I asked people in San Francisco about this guy. They're like, listen, okay, I'm just going to tell you all the things they told me. Great kid, hard worker, would be our quarterback if he hadn't gotten hurt.
Okay.
But all of a sudden, they find lightning in a bottle and they hit on the 7th round kid and away we go. And so Trey became expendable. Did they make a mistake on him? They'll tell you, yeah, they probably did. What I'm interested in, and I think your assessment of Cooper Rush, and when I say Cooper Rush to me is the safety net. Again, if Trey Lance doesn't perform well, I don't need to see anything from from Cooper Rush this summer. He needs all the third reps in the games, preseason games. I don't need to see Cooper Rush. Every time I could see Trey Lance play, I need to see him, whether it's 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, wherever he can throw the ball and he's getting work when against the Rams at practice, is it preseason, wherever. I need to see him. What bothers me a little bit about Trey Lance is that last year they had programs during the season after practice where Trey Lance was getting work, throwing the ball to receivers, calling plays, moving up and down, getting extra work. The footwork, the drops, all that stuff looks fine. Processing looks a little slower than I thought it would.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like that, okay, they've been working with him all year, post-practice, finding ways to get him extra work. He's probably wasn't getting work when it came to the offense, when it came to getting ready for a game. That would be Dak and then Cooper Rush, the second quarterback. Third quarterback, now maybe there were some games where they needed a guy that can move around and stuff like that.
Scout team
stuff. But I personally expected a sharper Trey Lance when I watched those OTA practices.
That's fair.
And I don't think I saw a sharper guy. I think I saw a guy that looks athletic. I see a guy that can kind of take a snap, drop back, and then kind of starts to process. And the process was taking a little bit longer than I thought it would.
Yeah.
So he hasn't played a lot of football. That's not an excuse.
No, not in the league.
But they've tried to get him acclimated. Now they were hiding him during the season because we only get to see 15 minutes of practice, and generally that was a special teams period and then maybe some type of stretching. We didn't get to see him. Pre-practice, the quarterbacks were in the outdoor field. Quarterbacks are indoors throwing stuff. Then it's time for the quarterbacks to come out. Media, time to go. Boom. So we never got to see Trey Lance. They can't hide Trey Lance from us now. He's Yeah, he's going to be the most scrutinized player. Todd Archer, if you follow Todd Archer.
Great reporter.
Yeah, he's going to tell you he was 7 of 9 today in 7-on-7. He's going to tell him he was 12 of 15 in team period. He's going to tell you he was 7 of 11, and he's going to break him down. He's going to be the most scrutinized player at Cowboys training camp. Him, Guyton, Mozzie Smith.
Yeah.
Diggs gets back in the mix. There's going to be some play. Trey Lance is going. This is the time where Trey Lance is going to have every single eyeball on him. It's not going to be about Dak. People say, "Oh, Dak looked fine." Everybody knows Dak's the starter. Everybody knows that. Can Trey Lance be good enough to make them, if they move on from Dak, sign him and him be the starting quarterback in 2025? That's now the mission. Because if he can't, then Cooper Rush is the 2, Trey Lance is the 3, and this thing is likely going to get blown up if Dak doesn't save the day.
And
during the season,
Brian, it literally. I say this. I literally had this thought in this conversation with somebody. Like, this season could literally go. It's literally 2 ways. It can go. Mike McCarthy gets this thing to at least an NFC Championship. Dak gets paid, and you find a piece or 2 that you need to get it over the hump, or it could go 9-win season, 10-win season. The locker room splits, and I don't even want to touch on the locker room right now, Brian, and the Micah, and we're gonna keep this football for these people. But I'll say this: it can go that way, where literally, Brian, there could be a mass exodus, like Moses' people leaving Egypt. I mean, you're talking about Mike out, Dak out, drafting a quarterback. I mean, I don't know if they would give Zimmer the head coaching job, but that's literally the stakes on a season. And the Joneses did this by giving Mike a 1-year deal. I don't know if Dak gets paid. We'll see. I do believe the receiver gets paid. I just don't see a world where they start a season with CeeDee Lamb on the bench. It would be playing left-handed to me. There's no Tolbert hasn't shown you enough, and Cooks, he was good, but he wasn't good enough to where you feel comfortable rolling that out there week 1 against a good Browns defense at that. So there's no way you're starting the year without 88. So I just. Yeah, so I just this season is going to be interesting, but the Trey Lance piece of it, Brian, I appreciate that honesty, because camp, hey Trey, okay, we brought you in, 4th-round pick, all the training, your shirts off in the off season on Instagram and doing all this stuff. Okay, I want to see you throw the ball on time. I want to see you step up in the pocket. I want to see you go 1 to 2 to 3. I want to see this in real time. So.
Yeah, no, it's a reasonable expectation of Cowboy fans. Let me give you something I think you need to keep an eye on.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down, Brian.
Yeah, you don't have to write this one down. You'll remember this one. The Minnesota Vikings might be the team. The Minnesota Vikings this year might be what you're going to be in 2025.
Yeah, I see it.
And I say that in your quarterback's gone. You got a big-time wide receiver. You really got some key. You got some good defensive players, but you don't have enough depth. If the Minnesota Vikings figure out with J.J. McCarthy, they got a bridge player. They got a bridge player in Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
They went and got a bridge. That, and maybe they don't have to play McCarthy. But the Minnesota Vikings this year might be what the Dallas Cowboys are in 2025.
Yeah.
With no court, having to play with a rookie quarterback, big-time wide receiver, some decent offensive linemen, some key defensive players, but not enough depth. That's where I think that's a team I'm going to keep an eye on. Because you're absolutely right. This thing could go a couple of different ways. We know the front office is not going to change. It's not going to change. But we know that, this could be really, really expensive for them. It could be really expensive for them, especially with McCarthy. You know, he'll hold some leverage. Say they find a way to win the division, go a couple rounds in the playoffs, you know, all of a sudden have a little bad game. The one thing they haven't done very well is they play their worst game of the year in the playoffs. It always
at the wrong times. Yeah.
Every year it seems like it's the worst game they could play. They play it. But, yeah, this could be really, really expensive for Jerry Jones, or this can be when we're doing this show a year from now, there could be talking about, Brian, what are your expectations of Ben Johnson as a first-year head coach from the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, that's a name that I actually really like. So
yeah,
that's extremely interesting. Yeah. Bryan Broaddus here, man, on the channel. Brian, I got one more topic for you. We've hit a lot of stuff tonight, and I think that fans are going to gain a lot from this. And I again, extremely thankful for you coming on.
Oh, man, thank you for having me, really.
Brian, I want to say this, and I want to say this with you on, so correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a lot of doom and gloom, and rightfully so. Dallas was not good against Green Bay. They weren't. They got out coached. They got out schemed. Mike didn't have those guys ready to go. Dak sucked. I don't care. I know that people love Dak Prescott. He wasn't good enough. Nope. CD was pouting over in the sideline, looking like he's about to cry. Micah's getting chipped and whammed, and
secondary looked bad. Yeah,
secondary looked bad. Gilmore's chasing. It was bad. Yeah. So I get all of this. Bryan Broaddus, I really do believe the Cowboys still have a plus roster. I know, I get it. This team isn't active in free agency. They have a plus roster. Mike Zimmer versus Dan Quinn. Mm-hmm. You just said that you know Mike for a long time.
Since early 2000. Yeah, we worked together for 5 years, and I love Mike Zimmer. Matter of fact,
sell me on Mike, Brian, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the thing
with this roster.
Yeah, what's interesting is we saw some clips. We saw some clips the other day for Hooker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Malik Hooker is doing and you know what, I appreciate Malik Hooker's honesty.
That's fair.
I'm not the biggest fan of him as a player, but I appreciate his honesty, and I appreciate what he's saying about Mike Zimmer. Appreciate what he's saying about Micah Parsons. You know, Micah comes out and says, "Well, if you're really a man, you would have said this to my face," kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Well, you know." Hooker's like, I'm just answering questions, bro, just like you do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, and then now you got Plaxico Burress and others say, "Oh, this would never happen in Pittsburgh." Don't believe that. It's for 1 minute. With all the crazy MF
with Antonio Brown. I was about to say going live and doing live. Stop it. Just stop.
What else? What Claypool? Who else?
Yeah.
Tell me. Let me tell you what that receiver they got from Georgia, Pickens. Pickens is for real. He is a crazy MFer.
Yeah,
crazy. So don't tell me, Plaxico Burress, you haven't set foot in that locker room in a while. I don't believe, sir.
Yeah,
I'm saying that, and I'm saying that not really knowing, but
no, you spot on.
Yeah, you're throwing stones. And you're living in a glass house.
And you live in a glass house, buddy.
You live in a glass house. Don't act like Pittsburgh is a hunky-dory. Everybody gets along. We're all brothers.
Country club.
Yeah. I know people in Pittsburgh. A lot of people.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I think with Mike Zimmer, Mike is going to make sure Mike doesn't want to give up big plays. He is against that. That's how he plays his scheme. He does not want to give up big plays. He's going to play too deep. He's going to play interchangeable safeties. You got to be able to cover. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be smart. Hooker said this the other day, and I retweeted his clip that he did, that Zimmer might let you miss it up twice. The third time, you're going to be standing over next to him on the sidelines. He ain't going to play. He ain't going to play people that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
You'll know real fast at training camp. Mike is very fiery. He's very passionate. He's a very attention to detail. He doesn't leave things unchecked. He know exactly where he stands. He'll tell you that, listen, and he'll admit this, and we'll hear this probably at training camp when we talk to him. Mike said, hey, listen, I probably won't come up with the turnovers that Dan Quinn and this crew came up with.
Yeah.
It's different style of defense. It's a different way to play. He goes, now, do I respect that? Sure. Would I love to get turnovers? Yeah. Will turnovers come? Hopefully. but he's like, listen, there was a lot of gambling going on for turnovers here, and sometimes that costs you problems, costs you games, costs you big plays. So he's got a lot of respect for what Dan did here. He absolutely got a lot of respect.
Yeah.
But he also knows that he has to find a way to consistently get Micah Parsons going in games, and don't let backup offensive linemen from the Giants block him in a game where he gets eliminated in the second half.
Yeah.
He's got to get going. He's got to find a one technique. Feel like his linebacker room is a good room right now. He's got to figure out safety, really what's going on. Will Bell, Wilson, Thomas, who's going to compete, in that group, who could take Wilson's job there. So that's going to be something he's going to have to look at. He's got to get Diggs ready as fast as he can. He might not have him initially. I mean, I'm hearing things about Diggs working well, still a long way to go.
That's yeah.
And see, so that's, and every knee injury guy that we've seen from the Cowboys here, it's not a Britt Brown problem or a player problem. It takes these guys 4 or 5 games to get going again. We saw it with Pollard. We saw it with Steele. We've seen it with these guys. Gallup never really came back from his.
Didn't have any juice, Brian.
Didn't have any juice. So this is where Zimmer has got to earn his money, is that he's got to scheme with the guys he has. He's got to figure out his one technique. He's got to figure out his safeties. He's got to make sure that his corners understand where they need to be, where they line up. They've got to find a way. We always thought, you got to defend the run, I think defending the run I think there's a lot of teams that love to defend the run or try to defend the run. But there's also a lot of teams that give up some big damn plays. And we saw that in the Green Bay game. You give up big chunk plays, you're in trouble. And I think that's the thing where Mike is really good at. Mike will scheme around it not to give up the big play. Drive the ball on me. Try and drive the ball on me. I'm going to make you make a mistake because my players are good enough. The Micah Parsons, the Tank Lawrences, the Kendricks. Those guys are good. Bland. Those guys are good enough to make plays and get them off the field on third down. They had some problems in the month of December getting off the field a little bit. But they've got to get some guys going. And Mike knows he's got a very talented defense.
Yes,
and he's going to scheme with it. And talking to him, he's excited about the opportunity. But again, his whole thing is not giving up those plays. That film in Green Bay made everybody sick watching that.
Those Shanahan guys, man. I was actually I put this on Twitter, Brian, that me and you were doing this, and that'll be out tomorrow. And John Owning, our buddy John Owning over at PFF, he mentioned D-Law, and D-Law he's still playing good football. This team, Brian, is not a dumpster fire. I really do think that coaches need to be held accountable, and I think that players. And I'll say this: I heard something, Brian, in the offseason, and it's not a poop on Dak contest, but I will say this: they got to find a way to get Dak out of tight Dak in big games. There's something to that. The guy is a great quarterback. Nobody, he was an MVP candidate,
right?
But to say that he doesn't get nervous or tight or does he needs a hit to get hit in the game to wake him up? But there's something about San Francisco, Green Bay, San Francisco in the regular season.
I don't know. Yeah, Buffalo was bad too.
Buffalo was awful.
Defense was bad in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's only going to get worse for Dak. He needs to find a way. Nobody is going to care about his regular season and the fact that he was second in MVP voting.
Nobody
cares. Nobody cares because it's been 30 some odd years. They have got to find a way and I don't know if they're ever going to have a better opportunity to have had success in the playoffs than they did last year to be the second seed.
I know.
You play the 7th seed. Then you catch. You catch who you catch. Another home game, and now go take your chances at San Francisco. And you don't know, San Francisco might get beat on the road. I mean, they might have got beat, and you might have been hosting another game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're ever going to get a Philadelphia collapse the way that they did at the end. And for you to get the 2nd seed and just completely poop in the bed,
it's awful.
I don't know how you overcome that. But Dak is a really tough, resilient guy. But there's a lot of fans out there, and not just on Dak, this whole team.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I'm 60 years old, and I've been I was a Cowboy fan. I mean, my family had season tickets 1972 till 1992. I was, 20 years I was going to Cowboy games. I have not seen, and now doing all my media stuff, I have not seen a fan base this
torn, upset.
I don't give the attitude of I don't give an S.
I know.
I don't give an S. And but there's a lot of people that are very passionate and Cowboy fans, and no matter what, they will find a way to rally and get back. But they're at right now? They're expecting to maybe have an NFC Championship hat, and then a week later get their heart ripped out again.
Yeah.
They're expecting that. And it used to not be that way around here. It used to, I mean, trust me, I was in Green Bay getting my ass kicked by these guys in playoff games.
I know.
There used to be a pride about it where no matter what, home, away, whatever, they were finding ways to win games.
Yeah.
And win big playoff games. But Dak Prescott, his legacy as a quarterback could be defined this year.
This season, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Because if it doesn't work here, then maybe he'll have an opportunity. And not maybe. He'll have an opportunity to go off and play somewhere else. And
will he have this roster? Will he have a Micah Parsons, a CeeDee Lamb, had Ezekiel Elliott?
Probably not. Well, he'll if he goes to New Orleans or somebody looking for a Tampa, the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean,
just not the
People are saying that the Giants, they're predicting them to have the first overall pick. I personally think New England's worse than the Giants.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Yeah, Brian, what you said
low right now. Fan base is low. And you know what? The Cowboy fans, trust me, guys and gals, I was one of you. I was one of you, and I saw 20 straight years of winning football, playoff football, Super Bowl football. And then I went to the NFL, and what happens? I go to Green Bay, and I get my ass kicked in Green Bay. I go to Philly, I get my ass kicked in Philly, But and then I come here, and there's, the end of Aikman, the end of Irving, it was like the shell of a team. And we didn't do a good enough job, but still, this team, if it wins 9, 10, 11, 12 games, people are going to go, it doesn't matter. What are they doing in the playoffs?
Yeah.
They need to bring people back. They're going to need to have a run. If they don't, it's only going to get worse here. And I don't want to be wet blanket guy, but I don't blame the Cowboy fan because you know why? You've had your teeth kicked in a bunch in these playoffs.
The Green Bay game was it almost felt fake, Brian. It felt fake. I'm not saying the NFL. I wouldn't, because it was literally you're literally watching guys get out schemed. Yeah, and so it was like a preseason game. Dude, it was ridiculous. So my one saving grace, and you talked about him being your buddy for 20 plus years. I do believe, if nothing else, Mike Zimmer is gonna come and say, guys, this ain't happening. You're not gonna be ducking. You're not gonna be letting guards climb to you. We're gonna put somebody else in who's going to at least give their body up, who's not gonna let Aaron Jones front run, who's not gonna let Love front run. We're gonna have that type of grit. Love Dan Quinn. I thought he was too nice. I thought he was too, wearing Jordans and hanging out with kids and doing hat backwards. That's great. But guys, fortunately, at every level, there needs to be some type of fear, Brian. Hey, we're hanging out with the coach and all that. That's fine. But what happens is guys start to lay down or guys start to get too close, or hey, your job, hey, player X needs to know his job could be taken.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't see that enough. And they didn't play like it in Green Bay. They literally played with no urgency, nobody. You know.
I saw a lot of fans at that time. That's when they said, I've had enough.
I've had enough.
I've had enough. And, we'll all be back. We'll all be talking about it. And, it's our livelihood and all that. And you hope for the best. But if things don't turn around in the playoffs, there's going to be a whole new staff here. And there could be a new quarterback here and a lot of other things. We'll see.
Yes. Yes. Bryan Broaddus, thank you so much for joining me, buddy. I think that we really nailed a bunch of these topics. I can't wait to get you back on either pre-camp, during camp, but this was awesome, dude.
Thank you, man. I will, I plan to come on back. I leave for Oxnard on the 24th of July, and I come back the 24th of August. So I'll be there with the team. Living DallasCowboys.com's got me my 105.3 The Fan job. I do radio there. I'm doing all my shows there too, so I'll be on the ground. But at nighttime and stuff like that, if I have time, I'll be happy to come and visit with you a little bit.
Man, I'll shoot you a text. I'll shoot you. We'll jump on, and if you can't, I know I'll get you soon before preseason, because I know I will get rolling, because this is. Yeah. I know the fans will want to hear this, and listen, I'll be tuning into everything you do at Vach. But I wanted to go deep as far as getting real opinions on some of these tough topics, and I think we hit that today.
Well, thank you. They were excellent questions, and again, I love being on your platform, and I have a feeling we'll be doing this here again. Like I say, we got about 3 more weeks, and then it'll get started, and we'll figure out a way to hook it all up.
Hey, man. Thank you, Bryan Broaddus, for joining. It's Footsie King. You guys, make sure you guys go follow Bryan on Twitter. He does amazing work. A Super Bowl winning scout, podcaster, media guy. The guy doesn't sleep. He's 60. He's looking good, y'all. He's working, and I just appreciate you for coming on. All right, guys.
Thank you, man.
That's all we got. Peace.